What a performance, boys, in the first game since World Cup qualifying. The U.S. go out against Morocco, a fellow World Cup opponent, and put in a shift, getting a 3-0 result. You got to be excited, man. You got to be excited if you're coming away from that with anything but happiness and excitement for the U.S. getting that dominant 3-0 win. I don't know what to tell you. Now, there's a lot to unpack from that game, and I'm excited to jump into that. We're going to let's start right from the top. Let's talk about what I think was the biggest thing from that game, and that was Brendan Aronson. I mean, what a performance from Brendan Aronson. I think heading into the game, one of the big question marks was how was Brendan Aronson going to be in that midfield? Was he going to be effective? Was he going to be run over? Boys, I think he was pretty effective. Before we really start getting going, we need to turn it over to the sponsor. Let me see if I can remember how to do that. Here we go. We'll be right back on the other side of this break.
And now a word from today's sponsor. Bet Online would like to wish you a happy betting new year as we continue our march towards the playoffs and beyond. Bet Online remains the #1 spot for all betting action in 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website. Sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, and of course soccer, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available in 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right, now that business is out of the way, we can talk about the game. Guys, thank you for showing up. This is the post-game show. I want to see your takes in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about the game. What were your biggest performers? I think it's time to go through some of the questions that we had before the game and kind of evaluate what we learned from that game. And I think the biggest one up front for me was how is the midfield going to play with Brendan Aronson in the mix? How is he going to function? Was he going to be more of an attacking midfielder, or was he going to be more like the eights, the box-to-box midfielders that we saw throughout World Cup qualifying? How was Reggie Cannon gonna play? Was he going to be more like Serginho Dest or DeAndre Yedlin had been playing, getting up the field, or was he going to sit back more? I think from what we saw in the game, was kind of what I was anticipating, but I was excited to see it nonetheless. I think you have to talk about Reggie Cannon in order to talk about Brendan Aronson, because I think that their play mirrored each other a lot. Reggie Cannon sat back pretty far, was involved heavily in the buildup. A lot of the times in the buildup, the U.S. was actually in like a 3-man back line type of situation with Reggie Cannon operating as that right center back. Very similar to the way that we see him play at Boa Vista, his club in Portugal, and he was pretty instrumental in that buildup. But what that allowed to happen was for Brendan Aronson to get more involved in the attack, and whenever he did, he had some really nice passing movements. I think his movement was really good. He got in behind a few times. He got in some really good positions. He ended up getting that goal off of the Christian Pulisic ball over the top, and just was probably, I think, easily everyone's player of the game. So really excited to see Brendan Aronson in that center midfield position, being so effective. And I think the question moving forward is, I think Taylor Twellman alluded to this on the broadcast, is how do you get Brendan Aronson on the field if everybody for the U.S. men's national team is healthy? If Serginho Dest is healthy, can you have Brendan Aronson on the field? If Serginho Dest is going to get forward and get involved in the attack, does that hamper your ability to have Brendan Aronson in there getting forward, especially if you have Weston McKennie playing next to him? If Weston McKennie is on the field, can he partner with Brendan Aronson? Does having Brendan Aronson on the field hamper Weston McKennie's ability to get forward? Does that mean that Yunus Musa and Weston McKennie have to play together and Brendan Aronson comes in for Weston McKennie, which is fine, but I think it's a question moving forward, especially if Gio Reyna's in the mix, and that means Tim Weah's on the bench or potentially at forward, as Taylor Twellman kind of alluded to on the broadcast. But I think these are all good problems to have, and I think it's great that Brendan Aronson stepped up and showed that he can be that player in the midfield, and that just adds another tool to the tool belt for the U.S. men's national team moving forward towards the World Cup. And it opens up another winger position for the U.S. men's national team. If Brendan Aronson is thought about as a center midfielder moving forward, that opens up another opportunity to bring in another winger. I thought Malik Tillman had a decent game. Obviously, we need to see a lot more from him before we can give him a spot in Qatar, but still, early on, that was good. I think the headline for the Yank report was about how was Jesus Ferreira going to play? Was he going to solidify his position in the striker role? I thought Jesus Ferreira had an okay game. Certainly not a game that solidified him or made him the starting striker for the national team. I was happy that he did get that chance. I think Jesus Ferreira is just consistently getting himself into good positions, into scary positions, but he did not get the finish, which has been a reoccurring theme for Jesus Ferreira within the national team. So he will get criticized for that. But it's compounded with the fact that Haji Wright came on and looked really good. Haji Wright offered a dynamic that we haven't seen with the national team in quite some time. He looked good holding up the ball. He looked very strong, but he was also very direct. And that directness directly created opportunities for the U.S. men's national team throughout the second half. So I was really impressed with Haji Wright. Now, if you're going to criticize Jesus Ferreira for missing his opportunity on goal, you also got to criticize Haji Wright because he had the opportunity. He didn't put it away. He ends up getting the penalty kick that Christian Pulisic hands the ball to him, which is really nice, really shows the unity in this squad for Christian Pulisic to give up an opportunity at a penalty like that. But still, cool to see Haji Wright get on the score sheet. And I think Haji Wright absolutely earned more minutes under the national team and potentially a start in the next game. If I'm Greg Berhalter. If I'm Greg Berhalter, I'm really curious to see what Haji Wright looks like at the start of the game. Because I think one of the unheralded facets of Jesus Ferreira's game and what we saw throughout the first half is Jesus Ferreira is great presser, man. He's a relentless, tireless presser. He's willing to run all over the place. And his running in the first half opened up a lot of opportunities for the U.S. men's national team. I mean, there was at one point Jesus Ferreira pressured the keeper, and the keeper bounced it off of Ferreira, and that nearly went to the U.S. for an opportunity. So that is a facet of Haji Wright's game that we still need to see. Is he going to be able to offer that that relentlessness in the press that we get from somebody like Jesus Ferreira? We also get from Ricardo Pepi. I'm curious to see Haji Wright over starting a game and what he looks like from that regard. However, you have to be happy with what you saw from Haji Wright in this game, and it's exciting moving forward. With all that said, it's time to jump into the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Sparkle Duck says, I'm excited. We played pretty soccer. And yeah, I think that there were a lot of segments throughout that game where the U.S. really played some pretty soccer. I think this game is a way better indication of what the U.S. is going to look like and what they're going to see in a World Cup, as opposed to what we saw throughout World Cup qualifying. I think throughout World Cup qualifying, the U.S. played a lot of teams that were willing to sit in and bunker. A lot of pitches that weren't very good and weren't conducive to great ball movement. So it really hurt the U.S.'s ability to take players on one-on-one and have nice, slick passing sequences. But in this game, we saw kind of all that. The U.S. were up against a veteran squad, a fairly disciplined squad, at least in the first half in Morocco, that were willing to hold the ball and try to build from the back. And the U.S. were more than willing to allow them to have the ball and attempt to get through their press. There were a few instances, especially in the first half, where Morocco was able to get by the U.S.'s press. There was a few instances in particular where Hakimi just did some phenomenal things on the ball that broke down the U.S.'s press. And what we saw is what we saw throughout World Cup qualifying. Whenever the press was broken, it's up to those athletic center backs and those athletic defenders to have solid one-on-one defending and to play well in the back whenever things are not particularly organized and they're up against a strong counterattack. And we can talk about kind of Aaron Long's performance tonight, but I think overall throughout the game, the U.S. did well to limit the opportunities for Morocco. They did have their opportunities. They did have some, I mean, they weren't clear looks. I feel like they got one real clear look early on in the first half where they passed it around Walker Zimmerman, but they were unable to get that opportunity. But the U.S. was playing a high-risk, high-reward system where they're going to allow those counterattacks and trust their defense to bail them out, while at the same time trust in their press to create opportunities of their own, trust in their counterattack to create opportunities. And throughout the night, I felt like the U.S. got the better of those opportunities. The U.S.'s press won out overall, and the U.S.'s counter won out overall. And I think largely in the second half, we saw the U.S.'s athleticism, their press, their relentlessness wear down that Moroccan team, and they weren't quite as willing to be brave and play out in the second half as they were in the first. So the U.S. just kept getting better and better looks as the game went on. I think that was compounded also by the things going on in the dressing room for Morocco. I think particularly after the Pulisic penalty, where we saw a couple of Moroccan players, their anger really spilled over and they got yellow cards. I think that showed up, and I think that's part of the unrest within the Moroccan locker room. And I thought after that penalty, we didn't see as much out of that Moroccan attack as we did in the first 45 minutes, or say first 50 minutes. But still, I think the relentlessness of that midfield, the relentlessness of that front three, that press, just the physicality of the U.S.'s squad just wore down Morocco. And that's what we're hoping to see in the World Cup. That is the U.S. that we're hoping to see throughout the game. Let's see. Tommy Lindsay says, very fun game, and I don't blame Pulisic criticizing the fans in that post-game interview. I didn't see Pulisic's post-game interview. I'm curious to hear what he said. I don't know what he said about the fans. I do notice that it seems like the only things we have to say as U.S. soccer fans about soccer is just criticism, man. I mean, we were up 2-0 at halftime. I put out the tweet. The U.S. is up 2-0. How are we feeling? And there was a lot of criticism, which was surprising because the U.S. had a solid first half and we're up 2-0. End up winning the game 3-0, and everybody's still angry. Let's see. William Doherty says Aronson and Reyna are going to be super subs, in my opinion. I don't know if you could put Reyna on the bench. I think Reyna is just too damn good. We'll see how he comes out the gates. Though you can look at Tim Weah and say the same thing. I mean, for the U.S. at least, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He did get a little bit lucky, for sure with that goal. I think that more often than not, professional keepers are going to save that shot from Weah. But Weah was, he was firing them in, and you can't win the raffle unless you buy a ticket, and he was certainly buying tickets tonight. So another big game for Tim Weah, which I think is something that we've seen from Tim Weah throughout the last 2 years for the U.S. men's national team. So it will be difficult to put Weah on the bench, but I think Reyna can do it. One thing that you didn't say in this comment is that Pulisic would be on the bench, which was something that people were talking about not too long ago. I mean, Pulisic had that just moment of absolute brilliance, which is what you're hoping for from your superstar player. So excited for that from Pulisic. Chris Gary says, Haji combined nicely. I hope he gets more minutes in this camp. Not going to jump the gun here. Yeah, I think that's where everybody should be on Haji right now. He looked fantastic in that second half. He brought a dynamic that we haven't seen from the U.S. men's national team forward role. His hold-up play was good. I was worried about his ability on the ball, but I thought his interchanging was pretty good throughout the night. Curious to see what he looks like in the first 45. Whenever you have a fresh defense and he has to press. But I think the first indication was good, man. Let's see. Terrence Ayuleta says Ferreira starts the press, which is absolutely true. The press starts with your furthest player forward. Jesus Ferreira does phenomenal with that. And throughout the game, he did good with that. And I think some of the U.S.'s opportunities early on in the first half came about because of Jesus Ferreira's pressing moments. He did have some shaky moments to be fair. So I'll say that. But I'm still intrigued to see what happens with Ferreira moving forward. He had a great moment in this game. He wasn't able to seize it right before halftime, but still high on Jesus Ferreira. But Haji Wright's breathing down his neck right now. If I'm Ricardo Pepi, I'm nervous, man. If I'm Ricardo Pepi, I'm nervous because Haji Wright looked good. Jesus Ferreira looked good. Grant Eisenmanger says, we're going to win the World Cup, Sam. Say it. And Grant, I was thinking it. I was thinking it during the game. Do I tweet out we're going to win the World Cup? Do I just tweet it out right now? No, I don't think the U.S. has a squad to win the World Cup. Obviously, this is tongue-in-cheek. Whenever you're winning the World Cup, I mean, you've got like 6 of the best players in the world right now. We don't have one of the best players in the world, but we saw what we can do against a World Cup quality opponent. This was 3-0, and I don't think that it was a I think the U.S. earned that result, man. I think that the game plan was perfect and it was well executed. It fit right into what the skill set of this team is, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with being upset about this performance tonight. Dames Burner says, I still feel like we play Weah at striker in the World Cup. Taylor Twellman threw that out there as well. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I don't know. Especially if Brendan Aronson is going to be a midfielder, then your 3 winger options are Pulisic, Reyna, and Weah. And I wouldn't want to move Weah out and only have 2 winger options at that point, or 2, let's say, deluxe winger options at that point. I don't know. Having Weah come on off the bench is not a bad thing. And having Weah be able to interchange with Pulisic and Reyna for those 3 starting spots is not a bad thing either. Let's see. Will Carlson said, on Pulisic, every Moroccan American in 200 miles showed up. People don't understand these games are cultural events for immigrant communities. The nature of the country means we'll always have a split crowd. I didn't hear Pulisic's comments, so I can't comment on that. But I am happy with the performance he had tonight. I mean, that touch that off that Walker Zimmerman ball over the top. I mean, that was just incredible. And then the poise to fake the shot and then drag it back for Aronson was just the type of world-class moment that we've been waiting to see from Pulisic. He showed a world-class moment in the Panama game. This was another world-class moment for Pulisic. This is what we need if we're going to win games in the World Cup. We need our star player to be a star player, and he showed up tonight. Let's see. Manuel Oliveira says, Haji Wright the savior? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. The jury is certainly still out on that. But we'll see what happens. He put in a solid performance tonight, and you got to be impressed with what he did. Let's see. William Doherty says, Weah is more physical and more durable, in my opinion. I think Reyna will be very impactful off the bench when the opposing defense is more gassed. I don't know, man. Weah is a big boy. I don't know that we have too many people that are more scrappy and more physical than Reyna. I thought he was really impressive in the brief moments where he was actually standing upright this season. But we'll see, man. I think having those 3 guys to interchange, Pulisic, Weah, and Reyna, is not a bad thing at all. So I'm happy with that. Greg Hits with the $4.99 donation says, played very well out the back. I don't know. I wouldn't say we played very well out the back, Greg. I mean, in the second half, we certainly did, but I thought that Morocco kind of gave it up a little bit in the second half. In the first half, we were able to get it out a couple of times, but there were also times where we just kind of hit it long, which is fine. I don't think that this team is looking to possess the ball and play it out of the back on every possession. I think this team, especially early on in games, is fine with conceding possession, hitting it long, and forcing the opposition to come through their press. And I think we saw that. And then in the moments where they can find the break, to hit them on the break. And that's what we saw in the first half. So we didn't consistently play well out of the back. In the second half, we did whenever Morocco kind of fell off. But I don't think it was as bad as a lot of people were predicting. A lot of people were I saw people saying it was going to be like 8-1 Morocco because our playing out of the back was going to be so bad. But I still think that there's a misunderstanding with this team, that this team is looking to possess the ball like the Spanish national team of 10 years ago. I don't think that that's what we're looking to do at all, especially early on in games. I think there's going to be a mix, but I think we're more than happy just hitting it long and pressing. Connor McCabe says, hey, Sam, wasn't expecting the 3-0 win over a stacked Moroccan team, but it's a win that's a confidence booster for sure. Yeah, I think the funny thing about this win, Connor, is it felt like the players on the field were expecting it. I don't think the players on the field thought that the U.S. was going to struggle in this game. It looked like they were confident all the way through. And we really got to see what the strength of this U.S. team is, which is that counterattack. Whenever we're playing against the type of teams and the type of fields and the type of environments that we're going to see in the World Cup, the U.S. is going to be able to play this way. And whenever the U.S. is able to play this way, it forces the opposition to be perfect. The U.S. is going to play a high risk, high reward system. They're going to give up opportunities for counterattacks. They're going to give up some looks here and there, certainly some long distance opportunities. And Morocco got that. And we also saw that against Mexico, especially in the Azteca. Mexico got that. But you've got to be able to execute perfectly. Now, we're going to get to a point down the road if we progress in the World Cup where we're going to be coming up against teams that can execute perfectly, that can execute perfectly on a regular basis. And we're not going to be able to keep up with those teams. But against teams that are having an off night or teams like this Morocco team, which are good but not great, having them have contested shots from distance, forcing them to beat our really good one-on-one defenders one-on-one, asking them to execute at a high level. They weren't able to be up to it for 90 minutes, and the U.S. was, and we took our opportunities there. Let's see. GTM says, I'm cautiously optimistic about Tillman and Wright. I'd love to see them start versus Uruguay. I don't know if I'd love to see Tillman start. I was also happy with Tillman's performance tonight. I thought that was a great debut, a great opportunity to play against decent competition in a friendly that's kind of low pressure, and the game was already set. He had an opportunity late in the game where he took a player on and had a shot on goal, and the keeper really had to make a decent save on that shot. So I think all around best case scenario, but we don't have that many matches between now and the World Cup. So I want to see our first team playing together as much as possible. I wouldn't hate it if Haji Wright starts the next game. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. But I think as far as Tillman, I think we'd want to see another of our best guys out there. Let's see. Jesus' chance. Terrence Ayuleta says Jesus' chance came from Aronson. Aronson was phenomenal throughout the night. I think I think a lot of us were asking for more creativity in the midfield for a center attacking midfielder to kind of emerge, and I thought Aronson filled that void really well. Let's see. Big Harry Jake says, guys can rotate, but the ideal way would be on the bench while Jesus plays is too much for me. Somebody's going to have to sit on the bench. And the thing that we're missing here is that the U.S. is going to get 3 games in the World Cup, and we're not going to see the same front 3 start every single game in the World Cup. So maybe you get your front 3 of Pulisic, Weah, and Reyna in the first game, but come that third game, are all those guys going to be ready to go? And that's whenever you're going to need your depth. So that's whenever you would want Weah or whoever else to be on the bench so they could come in. So I think you got to consider depth and consider rotation. Let's see. Obiter Dictum says, Jesus had a pretty poor game. He failed to make the run into the box on several occasions when players were anticipating his run, and he didn't make it. I don't know if I would agree with that. He had some decent runs in behind. If you compare him to Haji Wright was always making the run in behind, and he's a little bit more direct. But when Jesus Ferreira was on the field, the U.S. had a lot of chances, and a lot of that comes from Jesus being a really smart player and making the correct moves, making the correct runs, and open up opportunities for others. And he did get his run in behind where he got his opportunity. He failed to put it away. Overall, I'd say okay game for Jesus Ferreira. The jury's kind of still out on who the starting striker will be. But he did, I feel like, lost some ground to Haji Wright in this game. Let's see. Will Carlson said, guys, guy gives you $5 and you disagree with him. Sorry, man. I'm not out here to be purchased. Let's see. Terrence Ayuleta says, man of the match, Aronson, Pulley, or Weah. I thought Aronson was the man of the match, no doubt about it. He was so impactful all over the field. Ash Hall says, Sam, how poor was Scally today? I don't know, man. Was he poor? He didn't have that many minutes, so it's hard to really make a super big judgment. And he came in late whenever Morocco had kind of given it up. He had that moment where Hakimi beat him, but Hakimi might be the best right back in the world. So you can't hold that against him too much. He was able to recover and win back the ball from Hakimi. He also gave up the penalty, which was kind of a phantom penalty. So that was frustrating. In the build-up, he was okay. I don't think he was. I wouldn't say he was poor. I would say not enough minutes to really make a true judgment on how good he is. I think still want to see more from Joe Scally, and also considering what we've seen from George Bello in the past, still optimistic about what we can see from Scally. Let's see. C. Stu said Reggie playing in the back three also allowed Jedi to play higher. I noticed he was higher up than Pulley much of the game. Yeah, that's how the U.S. has been playing, at least with Jedi throughout World Cup qualifying. Jedi is going to get really high. Sometimes whenever Dest or Yedlin is in the game, you'll see the right back get high as well. But in this game, Reggie Cannon is someone who does sit back a lot more for his club team. He plays that right center back role in a 3-man back line, and he kind of played that similar role. Whereas Jedi got high on the right side, and Pulisic kind of came back in, and Yunus Musa kind of drifted into that left back role. On the right side, Reggie Cannon was further back, and we saw Tim Weah get far to the right, sort of mirroring where Anthony Robinson was on the opposite side of the field, which allowed Brendan Aronson to kind of tuck into that pocket of space. We saw kind of different looks from the midfield depending on which side of the ball that was. I told you guys before the game, the fullbacks are going to indicate how the midfield is going to play, and I think we saw that throughout the game. Depending on where the midfield, how high the fullback was going to get, was going to determine where that midfielder was going to be, and Cameron playing further back allowed Aronson to get further up into the mix, and that was great all game. But yeah, Jedi did play pretty much high up all game. Let's see. MW4523 says Matt Turner was great tonight. Another quality performance. Yeah, I think the U.S.'s recipe for success throughout the World Cup is going to be solid goalkeeping, solid athletic one-on-one defending from the center backs, and high risk, high reward pressing. And Turner made some great saves, man. I thought the Moroccan keeper made some decent saves as well. He made one really bad save against Weah, but outside of that, he was pretty decent. But yeah, I was Matt Turner just doing what we expect him to do, and not making mistakes for the in the goalkeeper spot. Connor Sway says, "Hey Sam, would you give CCV the start next match against Uruguay? Also, Aronson was phenomenal tonight." Yeah, I think of the center backs, I thought Walker Zimmerman had a solid night. His one-on-one defending has been solid throughout World Cup qualifying, was solid again. And he did get the ball over the top that found Christian Pulisic for that goal for Brendan Aronson. So Walker Zimmerman was great. Aaron Long is the guy that everybody's questioning. Aaron Long was the big point of discussion before the game. I didn't think that he was bad per se. I didn't think that he was as solid in his one-on-one defending as we've seen from Miles Robinson throughout World Cup qualifying, though it is his first start with the national team for quite some time. However, when CCV came in, I thought CCV was very good in his one-on-one defending. I thought that he was more solid throughout the night than Aaron Long. As far as people talking about Aaron Long's distribution versus Cameron Carter-Vickers' distribution, I didn't see a lot to separate the two. I don't think either one is going to be particularly great at their distribution, and I don't think that's something that the U.S. is going to be looking for particularly. So if CCV starts next match, I'd be pretty happy with that. I think this is CCV's center back spot to win at this point, if I were to make a prediction right now. Obiter Dictum says, I was upset to see Long get the start, but I thought he had a very strong game. Very strong, I don't know, decent, not bad. I mean, people were predicting him to be like just absolutely awful, and he's not awful. I mean, he's a solid defender, and he certainly wasn't bad. But I don't know. I think CCV still has an opportunity to win that position over him. Mike Irish says Aronson, and that's really all you need to say at this point. Yeah, he was tremendous. William Doherty says Scally wasn't bad, but he didn't scream to me that he needs to be on the World Cup squad. Luckily, he's got time to show us in the next 3 games. And luckily, he's playing in a position where we don't have a lot of depth and we got to figure out something. Scally still has every opportunity to make this team. I think it was his first cap for the national team, maybe that, but certainly his first with the A squad. So there's still opportunity for him to learn. He's still, was he 19 years old? So no reason to read too much into this first game with the national team. He still can become that left back that we need by the time the World Cup comes around. But I wouldn't read too much negatively or positively into this game. Let's see. Chris Gary says LDLT is so good. He was so creative as a 6. I think a lot of that also was when he came into the game. I think Morocco had really taken the foot off the gas. So, Luca De La Torre is a solid player. He does make great runs with the ball, but I don't want to read too much into like the dying minutes of friendlies. Let's see. Terrence Ayueta says Scally made a great run into the box that allowed for a shot from somebody in the second half. He had that play where he put Hakimi on his butt. He stuck him like 2 other times. Boy, Hakimi also got the better of him pretty good on one run. I don't know. If you're trying to make the argument that he had a great game, I don't know if that's accurate. If you're trying to make the argument that he had a terrible game, I don't know if that's accurate either. Let's see. Sam, you got a bot? Yeah, I can see that. That's different. The notorious Nemo says, me and my dad watched the game. It was a pin, bro. Well, Nemo and his dad watched the game, guys. So there you go. It was a pin. I don't know. It didn't look like he made contact, but whatever. The ensuing shot was off the crossbar, so I don't see any reason to like go full Zapruder film on this one. I think Joe Scally has a lot of soccer ahead of him, so I don't think that the 20 minutes that he had in this game needs to be the open and shut case on his pending U.S. men's national team career. There's 3 more games. There's 3 more opportunities for Joe Scally to show us what he can do. This first game, he got through it. The U.S. still ended up with a clean sheet. He has a lot of room to grow. I thought his floor was, if that was his floor, it wasn't terrible. So let's see how it goes. TIE Fighter says Hakimi is better than Joe. Obviously, yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you there. Yeah, I think Hakimi might be a little bit better than Joe Scally. Let's see. Tim Aram says, thought Haji was interesting to watch. For a guy of that size, I wish he could play more physically like Lukaku or something. Was nice to see him get the pin, though. I thought his hold-up play was really strong. I mean, there were some moments there where he was holding off like 2 or 3 defenders from Morocco and really gave the U.S. an opportunity to break out in situations where you're just not going to get that from Jesus Ferreira. So he offered something different, which is really cool. And it's cool to have options heading into a World Cup. I really think that I really think that Haji Wright has put the rest of the striker pool on notice. If you're Ricardo Pepi and you're watching that game and Jesus Ferreira is already ahead of you in the depth chart, and you see that from Haji Wright, you're worried. So there might be a race for the striker position after all as we head into November. MW says, who would you give the start at the 9 versus Uruguay? I think I can make a argument for either side. I think you can say Jesus Ferreira needs more time with this team, needs to be given a run out. If you're going to try to see what he can do, then he needs to get every opportunity to kind of gel with this squad. And the opening 45 from the front 3 was really good. The U.S. had a lot of opportunities, and Jesus Ferreira was part of that, sometimes directly, but other times just with his movement and his intelligent play. So you can definitely make a case for Jesus Ferreira. But on the other side, after Haji Wright's 45 minutes, I think you can make an argument that you'd like to see more from Haji Wright. If I'm Greg Berhalter, I'm going to go with Haji Wright in the next game. I want to see 45 from him and let Jesus get the second 45. But it's going to be a different task against Uruguay. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. What Brian Fry says, what did you think of Luca Della Torre at the six? I mean, it was interesting. This is the first time we've seen anybody at the six not named uh, Tyler Adams or Kellen Acosta in a long time. I think the last person to play the six that wasn't either of them, um, let's see, was it James Sands or was it Jackson Ewell? It's been a while since we've seen anybody else, and I think I'm always weary of making a lot of assertions in the dying embers of friendlies. Whenever the game has been decided and there's been a lot of changes already, I still think that Luca Della Torre is better suited for the 8 and the U.S. men's national team. But I mean, he looked good. He had some nice runs bursting through. He also interchanged a lot with Musa in that 6th position, so it wasn't just him carrying the load. But he was fine. He was fine. Let's see. David says, we don't have an elite number 9. We just need a good number 9. Did Dan score for the national team? Did Dan score for okay. I'd agree with you. A good number 9 would be solid. Any type of number 9 at this point would be solid. Notorious Nemo says the Tillman dude is good. He's pretty good, man. He's pretty good. It's going to be exciting to see what becomes of him as we move towards the next season. What happens with him with Bayern? Does he get opportunities with Bayern? Does he get loaned out? What's he going to be? I mean, he's 19 years old, so it's about time for him to start playing some senior soccer. This cameo was pretty good, albeit against a Moroccan side that had kind of slowed down a lot in that second half, and there was a lot of space and a lot of opportunities. I don't know if he looks as good if he's starting that game, but, optimistic. Optimistic. C. Stu says, if we played 5 mid, would we be able to get our best 11 on the field? Uh, yeah, I guess, man, but I don't know if I want to play 5 midfielders. Let's see. Brian Fry says Luca Della Torre seems to have the ball control and awareness, but I worry about his toughness. Prefer him at the 8 as well. I think it spoke volumes that Greg Berhalter went with Aronson to start this game over Della Torre. I think that says a little bit about where Greg Berhalter sees Luca Della Torre in the depth chart. We'll see if Della Torre gets the start next game because I don't think that Weston McKennie is ready to go. He looked very rusty in his brief cameo, his 20 minutes in this game. So maybe Della Torre gets the next game, and maybe it's Musa that's since the bench, maybe it's Aronson. But either way, I don't know if Greg Berhalter holds Luca Della Torre in as high regard as a lot of the fan base does. Just something to consider. Let's see. Sam Bradley says, how would you rate Musa? I thought Musa had a solid game, man. I mean, there was early on in the game, he bursted into the channel and created an opportunity for the U.S. His passing I thought was pretty good. His running was absolutely tireless. His pressing was great. I think he's always going to be that player that is noticed more defensively than he is in the attack, at least at this moment in time, as he's still a teenager. But I thought that he had a good game, man. I thought that he had a good game. Guys, I think we're about ready to close it out. So if you have any last-minute takes, what you're expecting to see in the next game against Uruguay, let me know right now. But speaking of the game against Uruguay, the Since 76 store is going to open that game. It's going to be June 5th. So I'm really excited about that. You guys get the opportunity to get the Kings of CONCACAF shirt. The store is only going to be open for 7 days, so you'll only have a 7-day window to get that shirt. I appreciate everybody who's already followed Since 76 on Twitter and Instagram, people who signed up for the mailing list on the website. It's been really cool, all the support for that. So thank you guys for that. We got a big game ahead of us at Uruguay. I think it's going to be a different type of challenge, but it's going to be another challenge nonetheless. But boy, after 3 goals tonight, I mean, you got to be pretty excited if you're a U.S. men's national team fan. I know that Morocco has some internal issues right now. I know that they were without a few of their stars, but at the same time, a very experienced team, a team full of top 5 league guys, a very disciplined team, and the U.S. went out there and they decisively beat them. They had a solid game plan and they followed it very well. They played a high risk, high reward system. And I think that the U.S. were valid in their 3-0 win. So good things, all good things. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for hitting that like button. Thank you for hitting the subscribe button. Shout out to the members who were in here hanging out. I saw Mike Irish make a few comments. Shout out to the tier 2 members, Manuel Oliveras, Mike Irish, Chris Matassa, and Matthew Doyle. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me. Hell of a game tonight. Thank you to the comments section. Make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button. My name is Sam. This is the Yank Report, brought to you by Bet Online.